Yeah, so you know what happens is it's actually really simple. So I mean, in the case of diabetes, you have sugar coming in as a toxin, and that toxin destroys the nerves, and the nerves become inflamed. The nerves are unable to repair themselves. They're unable to heal because there's always a toxic insult with the diabetic because your sugars are always high, uncontrolled, and so your body has, so like inflammation is the root cause. It's the root cause, the generator and driver of every chronic disease. From diabetes itself has its pathological roots in inflammation. So like inflammation causes diabetes. Inflammation causes mental health issues like anxiety and depression are inflammatory diseases. Anything that ends in itis is an inflammatory disease. Arthritis, gingivitis, tinnitus, diverticulitis, ulcerative colitis, like any itis just means inflammation. It's an inflammatory disease. And so every degenerative disease like MS, these are all driven by inflammation. So inflammation is always bad. It's always painted with a bad light because it is. But it's also necessary too. So you need inflammation mainly for two things: to heal from injury and to heal from infection. You need inflammation for that. The problem is that when you heal from the infection and when you heal from the injury, you need to be able to shut that inflammation off. How do you shut that inflammation off? Well, there's lots of different things you could do: sauna, ice baths, exercise, fasting, carbohydrate restriction. Like all of these different stressful components will put your body into a state where it's forced to lower the amount of inflammation. So the way that this happens is you have this sort of teeter-totter balancing system inside of your body where you get sick and injured and infected. Your body will create inflammation, and that inflammation helps you heal from that infection, heal from this issue. And then what happens after you're done healing is your body is going to turn on all of these anti-inflammatory components, all of these antioxidative components, and to be able to take all of that inflammation out. And so you're living in a body that has no inflammation. And you only use it when you heal from infection and heal from inflammation, or heal from an injury, and then it goes back down. And so this is the way that it's supposed to be. They teeter and totter. So one of the things, just to put a name to it, I guess, if that's something that you wanted, there's a nuclear factor called nuclear factor kappa B. It's responsible for creating the inflammation to heal from infection and injury. And then you have one of the major pathways for your body to create its own antioxidants and its own anti-inflammatory mechanisms. It's called NRF2. And there's over 800 antioxidative and anti-inflammatory processes that NRF2 can turn on and take all that inflammation away. And so we're supposed to be just rocking, our whole lives with no inflammation, because every time we heal from the infection or injury, it's our culture that takes that inflammation away. It's our sweat lodges. It's our experience with the cold, and our love for the cold. It's our engagement in exercise all the time. It's our natural carbohydrate restriction diet. It's our fasting protocols embedded into every calendar year. These turn on that NRF2 system to be able to shut off all of the inflammation. So embedded in our culture is the process to be able to shut all this inflammation off. So when we're separated from that culture, when we're separated from that knowledge, these inflammation just go unchecked and it just stays super high. It stays elevated. There's nothing there to turn it off. There's no activation of those NRF2 systems. And so that inflammation, it begins to generate and drive every chronic disease and the aging process itself. So what is responsible for another part of our culture that is responsible for activating the NRF2 pathways is our medicine. Medicine is a way for us to be able to communicate to our bodies, for us to be able to say, hey, you're done healing from that infection now. You don't have that injury anymore. So we utilize this medicine to turn off those inflammatory protocols. And so this NRF2 pathway or system, it's hilariously embedded into the cytoplasm in the skin. The membrane of every cell in your body has this program called NRF2, and with all of those over 800 endogenous antioxidant and anti-inflammatory processes, this little program that's right in the skin of every cell, it's held there, it's anchored into that skin by a protein called KEAP1 or KEAP2, depending on where this is in your body. And so that anchor keeps it there, or proteins keep the NRF2 there. And so in order for that NRF2 to be activated, it has to get to the nucleus of the cell. And once that program plugs into the nucleus of the cell, 800 endogenous antioxidative and anti-inflammatory processes can begin, and that inflammation is taken away, and we get to rock a body with a CRP that is immeasurable. And so this is a good thing. What medicine does, what fasting does, what cold therapy does, what saunas do, or sweat lodges do, what carbohydrate restriction does, what all of our culture is responsible for doing is separating, breaking the connection between KEAP1 and NRF2, severing that the KEAP protein, allowing NRF2 to get to the nucleus of the cell, and allowing it to be responsible for all of those processes. So it is our culture entirely that is responsible for this. It's just really clear to see with like endogenous chemicals from medicine. So with something like the tamarack and the nerve issues, you have all of this severing of KEAP1 proteins from NRF2. So activation of this pathway, and so your body is making all of these endogenous antioxidants that are able to flood your nervous system and remove the generator of inflammation. The creator of inflammation is reactive oxygen species, and so you create antioxidants to be able to get rid of those. You never get antioxidants from food, ever. Doesn't matter what anybody tells you, it's all a lie. Plants and food are not antioxidants. And even if they were, they would suck, because your body makes its own antioxidant enzymes, and the antioxidant enzymes that your body makes are by far the most powerful, way more powerful than any plant. Millions of times, literally millions of times more powerful than any plant, even if they did make it into your body, which they don't. Anyways, so you have like glutathione, superoxide dismutase, you have hemioxygenase, catalase, you have all of these antioxidant enzymes that begin to flood your nervous system and suck all of the reactive oxygen species out that are causing and generating and driving all of this inflammation. And with that cause removed, there is even further endogenous anti-inflammatory protocols that are put in place to remove that inflammation, to lessen the immune activation, and all of this this whole immune cascade is able to be dampened and quietened and removed from this specific part of your body. So tamarack with your nerves, to get all of that inflammation out of your nerves. And with all of that inflammation gone, tamarack also has to do something else, which is to inhibit the toxic effects of glucose to this tissue. And so to allow it to be successfully insulin resistant. And so then the medicine or the sugar is not allowed back into those cells to destroy them. And so the cause of all of this to begin with is removed. And so when you remove the reactive oxygen species, when you reduce the inflammation, and when you protect those cells from the toxic effects of glucose, then it's able to heal. And all of this happens so fast. Like I said, there's over 87 components inside of tamarack that all work synergistically to be able to activate NRF2 pathways in nerve tissue specifically. And so it's no wonder why people who have neuropathy or who have sciatica are able to walk within, just a few hours of soaking their feet inside of this medicine. Sometimes too, it's not even soaking their feet, just we could drink it. And so even in that perspective, like the science is there. This has been studied preclinically, like in lesser animals, but I mean, the mechanisms are there. And to me, it's very clear, every time we're looking at this, we need to be understanding that culture entirely is what is needed and what is responsible for an opportunity to be able to heal from this chronic disease epidemic that we're in. We cannot be looking at this myopically. We cannot just look at medicine alone, or we cannot just look at nutrition alone. We have to look at everything all together, because all of this is responsible for tipping that scale, that NF kappa B scale and the NRF2 pathway, activating, keeping our body in a state where it has immeasurable amounts of inflammation in it on a regular basis. That's what we need if we want to be able to heal. That's what we need if we want to be able to age well. And every which way you look at it, it's everything working all together all the time. And so, yeah, tamarack is just something else. And that tree is going to be bright yellow pretty soon. So if we want to be able to have that opportunity to heal our nerves, and we want to be able to find this tree as easy as possible, now already is the time that we need to be making sure that we're keeping our eyes peeled, going for little drives and waiting for that tamarack tree to turn bright yellow. So to have this starting to happen to it when it sheds all of its needles, the only deciduous, true conifer, but deciduous conifer that we have in this part of the world. So like I just can't ever sing its praises enough with its roles and responsibilities. Like, you could take everything that I mentioned about nerves and neuropathy and diabetes induced sciatica, or just sciatica or chemotherapy induced neuropathy as one of the most common side effects of conventional chemotherapy treatments for breast cancer. You take all of this and you could apply that straight to your mental health as well. You're looking at anxiety and depression being driven primarily by inflammation, and this plant's responsibility at lowering inflammation in your nervous system, then to be able to have the opportunity to feel what a mind that is free of inflammation, the way that is supposed to work, which is free of anxieties and free of depressions. And so you think of, then you could translate everything to this plant's roles and responsibilities in the mental health epidemic that we're in. And so this tree can really quickly become everyone's favorite, not just mine. Though it is one of my favorites, because it's the gateway medicine of all gateway medicines that can be the most responsible for removing any doubt inside of us that's preventing us from knowing that these medicines work. Shkiguatagons is just one of the most amazing things, one of the most amazing plants for sure. Actually, though, I mean, I say that with everything, but this is just unbelievable. So yeah, Shkiguatagons, there we go.